Hello, my name is Erica Waters, and this is my first video submission in response to the first group meeting that I held at a early education center in terms of my group counseling. What I chose to focus on was anger. And I chose this because I currently am a preschool teacher, and I've noticed a lot of students tend to build up anger. They don't know how to express it. They don't know how to notice anger. And I feel that's something that if you can have them learn it early, they would be able to progress more in terms of a better understanding of what their body feels like, what makes them angry, and that way they're able to go into situations, not feel angry, or learn how to cope with their own anger. Unfortunately for this group, and it's cold season, I only had one kid, so I wasn't able to really progress what I wanted. However, I felt very confident because I was able to go with the structure of group counseling, and I really made sure that although it was just a one-on-one session, that I focused on what the internal structure of group counseling is supposed to be like. And so for this session, it was around 15 minutes long. The student was actually very focused, and I was surprised at that. I knew that for this session that the structure of it had to be an introduction to what we're talking about, and then because of the age group, you had to make it engaging. You couldn't just be let's talk and talk and talk. You had to use props. You had to use role playing. So that's what I did. My main purpose of these next sessions is going to be to help the students develop an understanding of anger and to really begin to use proper coping techniques. This really helps with the ASCA national standards in terms of, learning between appropriate and inappropriate physical contact, not wanting them to physically hurt someone because of anger, to demonstrate boundaries, personal privacy, problem solving, peer pressure. Social media today can make someone so angry. How do you cope with it? And so for this first session, we sat down together, and I was really happy that we used what are called feelings buddies. I discovered them a while back, and in terms of this age group, I think it's amazing. So what I did with this first subject was I just asked him, I was like, what is anger? What do you think it is? I wanted to hear it in his words. And he described it in terms of actions. It wasn't necessarily a feeling, which is understandable at the age of, early childhood education. However, to just have him notice and be able to make the face, like the angry face, and to be able, he tensed up his hands. He was able to show with his body what anger was. He was able to find situations that involved anger, and I thought that was just really amazing for him to be able to notice, and I wanted to play on that. He gave me that information, so let's move forward with it. He described anger, as that feeling, as when someone takes your toy, when someone pushes you, when someone calls you a name. That was his mode of anger, which at that age makes you angry. And if that keeps progressing, and if his child does not know how to really full on, cope with that and understand how they react to anger, it can move on to more serious things. So after he described anger, and, we went into what makes you angry. He described the toys. He described, on the playground and those different scenarios. Then we went into the feelings buddies, because I really wanted to help him establish different anger, the facial expressions, the body, but I wanted him to also recognize what an angry face, how someone, how they do compared to other faces. You don't want them to confuse a situation and end up, confusing their emotions later on. So these feelings buddies are amazing. What we did is they're just little cardboard cutouts with different faces on them. They're scared and worried and happy. And so we went through each one. And what we did is we role played with these feelings buddies. So at one point, I was the angry friend, with her angry face, and, then he became the sad friend or the worried friend. And we role played a situation and how, as the angry friend, I gotta stop, how can you stop that and make your friend happy again? And so we went through all these feelings buddies, and what I really noticed was when we started talking about anger, and he was actually the happy guy at the time. And I was like, well, I asked him, how could you make yourself not angry? And it really surprised me when he said, you can change your attitude. And I thought to myself, that's a very, advanced thought. But when you break down the thought of it, I don't think he actually fully understands what changing your attitude means. And just that key phrase really progressed to helping me develop my counseling plan for next session in discussing how we can change our attitude. What I really like about these group counseling sessions is that when a student says something, when there's conversation, that can really be the seed that to implant in the next session. So, to summarize that for the first session, then there's this seed. Let's plant that in the next session and expand from there, because as much as a counselor, we want things to go a certain way, we want things to progress, and we have a counseling plan and we want to stick to it. Sometimes it's better for the group to take something like what my subject said of changing your attitude and actually progressing that into our next counseling session, and using that to really build the structure in week 2. So I was very excited about that. Some difficulties that I did have, however, was keeping the focus. Luckily, the feelings buddies did help. It was able to break up just the one-on-one talking. I brought in a different toy. It was a really mad looking toy. And so we used that again to reemphasize what anger felt like, what anger, really did feel like inside. But it still didn't bring the focus back. And so I'm hoping that this next week I'm going to have more subjects. I've already confirmed that they're going to be there. And so I'll be able to really talk more in terms of a group counseling session. And I really want to see what other of those little nuggets of information I can see to progress forward, because what I'm hoping to do in the last counseling session is really summarize everything, bring back the feelings buddies, because I do really like how they're really able to kind of be like a front. So it's not that you're putting your own feelings out there. You are able to project your feelings onto one of these. And I feel that it can just bring more comfort to someone to not just fully express the way that they're feeling. It has, a little bit of a mask, which in some instances can really help a student to actually share more information than just sitting down in front of a counselor. So I want to bring the feelings buddies back, but I really want to do more role playing, because I feel at the early childhood age, role playing is key. It's the way that they can sense the feelings. It's the way that they can gather more information. You can't just tell it to them. They're not going to remember it. But if they act it out, they're going to remember that scenario. And I think that's what's really going to be able to progress it forward. And so my structures for the next counseling sessions are going to be really along the same one that I did for this. Is we come together, the initial, this is what we're talking about. What do you think about it? Tell me your information. Then move into, kind of what makes you angry? What, ask them some questions. And then I really want to focus also on some coping techniques. I was able to in this session, but not anywhere near where I really wanted to. And so I'm excited to progress with this. And one thing I noticed, and just kind of, internally reviewing the session, I need to be bigger. I can't just sit there and talk and as I normally would with a, middle school, high school, college age student. I can't just be there one-on-one. I have to be vibrant. I have to make it more engaging. And so I'm really going to work on that. But after this first session, I'm really excited to kind of see where this goes. So hopefully in this next video, I will be able to better go into how our structure went down. I'll be able to, hopefully find some more nuggets to implant into those last few sessions.